Good evening and welcome to Travels by Broomsticks Spooktober Adventures, where we visit the most haunted locations and tell you the terrifying tales that go along with them to get you in the mood for my favourite night of the year, Halloween.
Today we are here with the wonderful Matthew Rose and Luke Allcock from Dark Wales Tours. Thank you so much for being guests on our Spooktober interview special. This is to get us in the mood for Halloween, and what better way to get ready for a spooky season than with a ghost tour.
We absolutely love your award-winning ghost tours. As you know, we've been to all of your tour locations with you and we thoroughly enjoy the mixture of history and hauntings. You really know how to create a creepy atmosphere while telling your spooky stories.
Hi, so thank you so much for having us. It's a great opportunity to chat about the tours, and I want to thank you, of course, for coming on, like you say, all of our tours now. So it's amazing that you love the sort of mix of history and the paranormal as well, which is what we aim for, and also loving your YouTube channel as well, so keep up the great work.
Yes, thank you for having us, and we'll get right to it.
Thank you so much. You are so welcome. We love your ghost tours. So, to start with, what first inspired you to set up Dark Wales Tours?
So I've always been interested in history and the paranormal from a very young age, living quite near the area of Kenfig, which is steeped in folklore, myths, legends. That's sort of instilled that interest, if you like, from a very young age for me. So lots of legends around my area, the Prince of Wales pub, the Margam not too far. So I've always known about those places since I was very young. And the opportunity came along to start our own company in 2019. We were doing ghost tours with another company for many years before that. But from 2019, Luke and I had the opportunity to continue the tours in our own vision with Dark Wales Tours.
And for me, I was always interested in history from a very young age. I actually have a degree in history. I did my dissertation on Jack the Ripper, funnily enough, so I've always been interested in the darker aspect of history, and that kind of drew me into the ghost tours and discovering more about the incredible history of Wales and also the ghostly phenomenon that has been reported over the years in these various locations.
Oh, Luke, I love that you did your dissertation on Jack the Ripper. That must have been incredibly interesting as well as a little bit scary. I like that you both have a passion for history and for the paranormal. But are you surprised that other people want to go on ghost tours all year round and not just in the run-up to Halloween?
It's great that people do want to do the tours all year round. It just shows that interest is there, not just at Halloween. And what I always like to say, that these places, if there are spirits, if there are entities in these various locations, they wouldn't necessarily just wait for Halloween to sort of interact or show themselves type of thing. So it's amazing. We're quite lucky that we are able to run the tours all year round and sort of share our passion for the history and the paranormal experiences at these locations.
Where are you currently running your ghost tours?
So we do tours pretty much on a weekly basis at St Fagans. We've actually got two tours at St Fagans, one which explores the museum side of it, the houses which have been brought from all over Wales, and we're also doing a castle tour as well on the other side of the grounds, looking at the history of the families that actually owned the castle and the experiences people have reported there. We work with Caerphilly Castle and Castle Coch around Halloween time. We've also got Margam, one of our tours which we run a couple of times a year as well, which are very popular, and we're always looking for new locations all the time.
We're also going to be at Cardigan Castle in December.
Oh yeah, that's right. So we are quite excited for that one because we've never done a tour down there yet, and we will be giving guests the opportunity to actually stay the night after the tour as well. So really looking forward to Cardigan Castle in December of this year.
Oh, that sounds amazing. We will definitely have to book to go on the Cardigan Castle ghost tour with you. So, for people who haven't experienced one of your fantastic ghost tours yet, can you tell us what they can expect?
So on our tours, we kind of like to pride ourselves on the historical aspect, the historical nature of the location, and talking about the experiences which have either happened on the tours or which we've been told by staff members, visitors, or sort of any historic hauntings of the location. We're not an investigation, we're not a ghost hunt or anything like that. We like to sort of retell the history and the experiences. It's more about the storytelling aspect for us, and if strange things happen, which they quite regularly do on the tours, then that's a little bonus, if you like, then for the guests who come along.
Well, we have had a few weird experiences while on ghost tours with you. Do you have a favourite tour?
Oh, favourite tour? That's a good question.
Well, the tours are kind of like children. You're not really meant to have a favourite child, but most people actually do. So I think for me personally, my favourite one has to be actually St Fagans, the museum side, because there's so much that has been reported, and over the past year or so now, we've been getting so many experiences reported on the tours, and also a lot of photographs being sent to us of things we can't actually explain. So it seems to be St Fagans is coming alive for us. So I think that's my favourite one so far.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with Luke. The beauty of St Fagans is you've got that so much history from all over Wales brought into one location. So you think, yeah, St Fagans is definitely up there. But for me, Margam as well, I would say Margam really sort of gets under my skin. It's an amazing location, absolutely terrifying at night. You go into the grounds and the castle itself, it takes on a life of its own. It is something very strange atmosphere at Margam as well, to say the least.
Could you tell us one of your favourite ghost stories or a spooky encounter from one of your tours, please?
So much has happened on our tours throughout the years. We've got a sort of rich catalogue, if you like, of all the strange experiences, and it's a great opportunity to share some of those stories that we don't always have a chance to tell on the tours. I say the tours themselves are normally about 2 hours, and that could easily be 4 or 5 hours with the content we have. But for me, one of the strangest things we were told was actually from a lady on our St Fagans ghost tour a number of years ago. Now, her experience is something which has intrigued me for so many years now, because more and more people are reporting exactly the same thing. We were in Kenixton Farmhouse, so the iconic red building, which tends to be one of the first buildings people generally see when they come to St Fagans. We'd been in there a few moments or so, and the lady told us, she said, her eyes were adjusting to the darkness. She was looking around the room, and she looked down to the kitchen area, and she could see initially what looked vaguely like a human shape standing in the window. She thought, oh, it must be my eyes playing tricks with me, my imagination perhaps. She said, I kept closing my eyes and opening them back up just to make sure they were adjusting correctly. But she said the more I stayed, the figure was becoming clearer and clearer. She said it was a figure of a lady standing, staring out of the window. She said she was wearing a plain white gown, or described as sort of a white nightdress, if you like. And she said, as I continued to look, this figure turned from the window to face towards the group that night. And she said it was at this point I could see the expression, I could see the look on the face. It was not nice, she said. It was not friendly, it was not welcoming. Quite a sinister, malicious look on this figure's face. And she said it was almost as if whatever it was slowly drifting closer and closer to her and the group. She said, I closed my eyes at that point, grabbed my partner's hand, refused to open my eyes until it was time to go. But unbelievably, that night at the end I was telling Luke about the experience, and it turns out he, at the same time, didn't know that the lady had experienced it at the time, but he seemed to have something very similar happen. So Luke, can you explain what happened that night?
So Unbeknownst to me, I was actually experiencing exactly the same thing as this lady, only when I saw this figure, I didn't see her move at all. All I saw was a figure of a woman wearing a white dress, a full-length night dress, staring out of the window of the kitchen area. Now, I have never seen it since, not as fully as that anyway, but for the lady to corroborate what I was witnessing kind of left me very shaken up. And she is actually not the only person to have reported it. We have had so many other people saying they have seen exactly the same figure staring out of the window from inside the building. It's become more detailed as people have experienced her more. People have said they've seen a red pattern on the dress. They've said that the figure appears to be screaming sometimes. So what this figure is, or who this figure may be, is a bit of a mystery right now. But it seems to be this figure is appearing more and more on the tour.
And yeah, it's interesting, as Luke mentioned, that more and more people are experiencing this. We mentioned something on the tour. We won't spoil the tour too much, of course, but over the last year or so in particular, a lot of sort of photographic evidence has been captured as well, much of which we have posted on our Instagram page. So I think that's one of the sort of most intriguing, the story I love to tell on the tours. But there's so many others across the sites. Margam again, coming back to the legend there of Robert Scott, the gamekeeper who was murdered there and supposedly haunts the castle. A lot of strange experiences around that. And recently, when we've been researching the new tour for St. Fagan's Castle, the experiences the security guards have told us that they've had in and around that castle is on another level strange. And again, it won't spoil too much for those who have booked to come onto the tour itself of the castle, but again, a lot of those experiences from the guards corroborate each other, and different nights, different people, again, as I said, experiencing exactly the same things, which is again quite interesting.
At Margam Castle during one of your ghost tours, I experienced somebody grabbing me on the arm while at the top of the grand staircase, as well as some very creepy singing and music that started playing. Do you have many unusual and unexplained things happen while you're doing your tours?
Yes, so I remember that night very, very clearly, the tannoy coming on. What a strange night that was. So, as you say, you were there that evening, and as I'm sure you remember, we'd actually finished the tour for the evening. We were coming back out through the entrance hall, and we were all just stopped in our tracks when we could hear the sound of choral music coming from somewhere deep within the castle, a sort of female operatic voice echoing, reverberating around the walls. None of us had any idea what it was. It was the first time it ever happened, the first time I'd ever experienced anything like it. And after a few minutes or so, of course, we did discover it was the PA system turning on. So it wasn't a long lost spirit decided to break out into song. It was the PA system strangely turned on, which in itself is very, very bizarre. We were quite anxious at the time because I'm sure you remember we had another tour due to start after yours, and we were anxious because we didn't know how to turn it off or anything like that. The security guard we called in, he was equally bemused. He said he's been working there 20 plus years, never has he ever experienced the system coming on, and he at the time was a bit confused how to turn it off. Thankfully he did get it turned off, and the next tour went through fine. Didn't come on again on the last tour that evening, but yeah, what a strange and creepy experience. You mentioned something grabbing your arm that night, and that's quite common as well. Lots of people on the tours, not just the arm, people have said they felt something grabbing the back of their neck with some force or some pressure. And you can imagine if somebody experiences something like that, whether you believe in ghosts or not, that's going to have a profound effect on you. And people have had to leave very shaken up and just nonplussed and terrified about what's happened and what they've experienced. And again, that's something which seems to be a common theme, not just at Margam, but throughout our various locations. It seems that if there are spirits and entities here, more time we go there, to these places, it does seem that we're getting more and more interaction. They're trying to interact with people, whether they're trying to communicate or tell us something, or whether or not they have even sort of more malicious intent as well. It just, again, adds to that intrigue, and is what we love so much about doing these tours.
What is the strangest or scariest thing that has happened to you while you were on one of your ghost tours?
Well, for me personally, I've had a couple of strange things experienced throughout the years, which I find very difficult to explain rationally. I will always, in the first instance, try to apply logic and try and rationalise these things when I can. We always like to make clear on our tours that a lot of the time when people are experiencing what they think a paranormal occurrence is, a lot of those times they can be explained rationally. You can apply logic to them, but there has been a number of occasions where I've had to question what I've felt, what I've seen, what I've heard. But one of the most terrifying things actually is hearing Luke's experience, something that happened to him a little while back. I'll let Luke tell you about that, of course.
So we were in one of the darkest rooms in Cardiff Castle, and I'm always stood by the doorway. Just in case anyone needs to leave, I can escort them out of the room. And I suddenly felt something kind of grab hold of my arm. I didn't know what it didn't feel like it was a human, so I didn't think it was anyone on the tour. It just felt like a pressure. And as the longer we remained in the room, my arm suddenly started moving and getting pulled behind my back. Now, I didn't know what it was. Like I say, it wasn't anything human, but it just kept hold of my arm, almost trying to pull me deeper inside the room. I wasn't sure what it was. I didn't want to make a fuss in case I inadvertently scared any of the people on the tour. But when the torches went on, I obviously was very relieved, but also a bit puzzled that there was literally no one behind me. There was nothing there. And I kind of shook myself off and carried on with the tour. When I got home that evening, I noticed on the top of my arm where I felt that immense pressure, there was a massive red mark, almost in the shape of a hand, that had just appeared on my arm. Now, obviously I've took pictures of it, but I've never posted them because you can easily debunk that. It could have been anything. But I know what I felt, and I know what I saw on my arm, and it's just been extremely terrifying every other time I've had to go there.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I saw the photographs that Luke took of that evening, and it really was quite something else to see that, and obviously what he experienced on the night as well, and to leave a physical mark on his body is very strange, to say the least. But I remember Luke telling me he was sort of reluctant to post those photos because, as he touched on there, we like to pride ourselves on just letting things happen. But with such a photo, the mark, people may easily think, well, he's just done that himself. Could have happened any time. So it was more of a sort of personal experience for Luke, I think, and something that I don't think he'll ever forget that.
I won't. No, it's going to stay with me forever, really.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that sounds totally terrifying. I honestly don't know what I would have done in your situation. No way would I have been able to stay quiet. I would have definitely disrupted the entire tour. I would have just run out screaming. You must have some serious self-control to be able to keep your composure like that. What tour location has the most ghosts in your opinion?
Well, again, I think the most spirits, it seems, again, could be St. Fagans, because you've got all those buildings which have literally come from all over Wales. So every single building has its own history, has its own former inhabitants, And of course you look at that theory where spirits can attach themselves to physical objects, items, fixtures, fittings, buildings. So when the buildings came there, it seems that they've brought along their spirits with them. And St Fagans, of course, was a historic battle site as well. 1648, the Battle of St Fagans was fought there. All that thrown together in the mix, the death of all those soldiers, all the former inhabitants, the people who worked the land, it just gives you a real sort of spectrum of potential spirits, which could explain why St Fagans is so paranormally active. At least what we've experienced, our guests and the security staff and daytime staff kind of, again, corroborates this for us.
I think a very close second, though, would have to be Margam. There are so many unexplained instances there that can't really be the same figures. So many groups of monks have been seen. It used to be an actual abbey. So I think Margam is a very close second, but yeah, I would agree. St Fagans has probably the most ghosts on any of our tours.
Yeah, and just to add to what Luke was saying as well, I touched on it briefly earlier, personally at Margam I always feel absolutely terrified. There seems to be something which could be far older, far more powerful than your sort of average spirit or ghost, if you like, because things, poltergeist activity has been experienced there, people being physically interacted with on the tours as well. So for something to be able to physically move objects, hurl rocks in this case, and move chairs, tables, actually leave physical marks on people, for that it takes a lot of energy and power, which whatever is there at Margam, it's been there for a very, very long time, it seems. And it could be something a lot darker, a lot more sinister than your run-of-the-mill ghost, if you like, then.
Yes, Margam Castle is certainly the most atmospheric and imposing. I would definitely believe that it is the most haunted location. What, in your experience, has been the most haunted place that you've ever visited, not necessarily on one of your tours?
Oh, that is a good question, that is.
Most haunted place? Well, just to touch on that, probably one of my early experiences of the paranormal, if you like, then, it was, we were on a family holiday down Tenby many years ago, and we were staying in a sort of lovely picturesque cottage just overlooking the sea. And the moment you walked in there, however, as beautiful as it looked on the outside, the interior absolutely stunning, you just got that feeling that something was not right. And even at that young age, I must have been 8, 9 at the time, you could even sense something wasn't right there. Even my parents and my grandparents who we were visiting with, they seemed very odd about the place. They're quite sort of straight up rational kinds of people, not sort of taken by flights of fancy in the paranormal. But they just seemed on edge continuously. And I think it must have been on the second night we were there, I was woken up in the middle of the night with a bit of a start, a bit of a jump, headed along the corridor, the landing, to use the bathroom. Now, as I was using the bathroom, washing my hands, I could have sworn in the mirror I saw something sort of whiz past the corridor behind me. Just moved past quite fast. Didn't think much of it, just remember feeling just maybe it could have been one of my parents down the landing for some reason. I remember it didn't make any noise, however, though, so I was a little bit puzzled, thinking if it was one of my parents walking around, I would have surely heard the floorboards or a door opening, and I didn't. So I thought I must be still half asleep, just went back to my bedroom, closed the door and went to sleep. Now, the next morning we woke up, and I remember the decision was made for us to leave. And we had a couple of days left on the holiday, but we were, for some reason, I can't remember what I was told, but it was decided we were going that day. I thought, okay, a bit odd, I thought, but oh well. And that was it, pretty much, until many years later, when I was probably late teens. Me and my father were just randomly chatting one day, and the holiday came up, and he told me that he experienced something very frightening on the same night, seemingly at the same time I thought I saw something go past that mirror. Now, he was in his room, of course. He was woken up, a bit of a jump, just like I was. And he said he could see something clearly standing at the foot of the bed. He said it looked like a figure of a man, in a dark shape, dark shadow, just standing there, motionless. And he just said he remembers just feeling absolutely terrified. And whatever it was, he said, it was not a nice sensation. He felt that he was in danger. He felt the family were in danger. He flicked the lamp on. He said there was nothing there when the light came on. You can imagine he kept the light on for the rest of the night. Don't blame him, to be honest with you. And he said that was the reason really why we packed up and went home the next day, because he couldn't explain what he experienced. He just felt a threat from this sort of unseen force. The reason he didn't tell me for so many years is because obviously he didn't want to scare me, didn't want to frighten me. But when he told me, I kind of told him my experience, and whatever it was that I saw, could it have been the same thing that went past the landing, maybe into my father's room, and could that be what he saw? So nothing to do with the tours themselves, the way we run the tours obviously, but I can just always remember how terrifying that experience was, and I remember it to this day. But as scary and as frightening as it was, it still gave me that passion to do what I'm doing today, and I absolutely love that kind of thing, the intrigue and the mystery behind it all. And again, that's one of the reasons from an early age which this interest has been instilled on me. So a bit of a long story there, sorry.
I think the most haunted place I've been to, it has to be St Fagans. I've experienced so many things there and seen a lot of things I cannot explain, more than I have anywhere else. I mean, it could be what we've already mentioned, all the buildings been brought from all over Wales. Every building has its own history, has its own spirits, it seems. So for me, it would have to actually be St Fagans.
Wow, that's crazy, Matthew. Your dad really trusted his instincts on that one to leave like that. That's so spooky. And yes, Luke, I definitely feel that St Fagans has an incredibly strong energy to it. With all of the old buildings there, especially the red farmhouse, that one, oh, I love going in there. It's just really ghoulish, especially the spirit that looks out the window at you. That's very scary. Where would you like to do a ghost tour in the future?
Oh, wow, yeah, there's so many locations we'd love to do tours all around Wales. For me, I'd personally like to maybe tap into more North Wales. Some of the locations up there, in particular the area of Denbigh, which is notorious for the Denbigh Asylum, which is a condemned building now, but one of the most paranormal hotspots we've heard of. There's the amount of stories from not only the asylum itself, but the entire area. A lot of strange things seem to come back to Denbigh, which is particularly interesting. But you've got lots of places like Carnarvon Castle, the history of the Druids in Anglesey and North Wales. There's a lot of potential up there, which hopefully one day we may be able to stretch our net, cast our net a bit further, and maybe explore some of these areas. How about you, Luke?
I think a lot of it, like Matthew said, is North Wales is very, or it seems to be very paranormally active. Like Matthew mentioned, Denbigh is just an ideal place. It seems to be a focal point for Wales. The first Welsh witch to be sentenced to death was from Denbigh. There's so many things, paranormal things, that seem to focus on Denbigh. I would love to be able to have a tour around Denbigh as well.
Yeah, definitely, but there's so many other castles throughout Wales as well, which we'd like to explore and research, and hopefully be able to hold some tours in at some point in the future as well.
Will you be doing a special Halloween tour this year? I really enjoyed the special Halloween tour at Caerphilly Castle last year. It was truly spooktacular. I loved learning about the old and somewhat gruesome Halloween traditions, as well as learning more of the history of the beautiful Caerphilly Castle itself.
Oh yes, it's great to hear you had a good time on Caerphilly Castle. Halloween tour last year. We will be back there again this Halloween time, along with Allcock as well. So the tours will follow a similar vein to the others. We'll look at the history and the ghostly experiences, but also mixed in with various Halloween traditions as well. So as usual, all information about all our tours will be on our website, so keep an eye.
If people want to book a ghost tour with you, how do they go about it?
So it's pretty straightforward how to book your tickets. Just have to visit our website, www.darkwalestours.co.uk. You'll be able to find all the various tours and locations listed, along with dates and times, and it's just simply entering a couple of details and purchasing your tickets from there.
Where can we find you on social media?
We are also on all the various social medias as well, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, for example. Our handle is Dark Wales or Dark Wales Tours. You'll be able to find us by simply searching on those platforms and check out some of our content there as well.
You also have a podcast, which I very much enjoy. My favourite episodes so far have been the Halloween episode, the Devil in Wales episode, and the Tylwyth Teg, the Fairy Folk of Wales. Where can people listen to your podcast?
So yeah, during the first lockdown, we released a podcast, as you mentioned, of various sort of myths, legends, ghosts of all of Wales. And we very much had a good time putting that together and researching it. It's available on all sort of major podcast hosting platforms, Spotify, iTunes, that type of thing. We are also putting the episodes up on YouTube as well with added graphics, so keep an eye out on our YouTube page as well. And on the subject of YouTube, we're hoping to put out some little travel vlogs, if you like, then in the future. Very much like what you guys have been doing as well, which we've been really enjoying. So we hope to do something similar, visiting different locations throughout Wales, or documenting our journey along the way, which we're quite excited to put that together as well.
That's very exciting. I look forward to hearing more of them and the vlogs on YouTube. They will be so interesting. I'm sure that you will inspire us to visit a lot of different places.
So thank you so much for having us on, and we've really enjoyed chatting to you and talking about our passion for all things Wales and paranormal, and thank you for this amazing opportunity.
Yes, thank you for this, and we look forward to welcoming you on our next ghost tour very soon.
Yeah, and keep up the great work, guys. Loving the channel, so really good stuff. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you on a ghost tour really soon. But in the meantime, I will be watching your YouTube videos.
Well, thank you both for your input. It's been like having an all-access pass, with all the stories of intrigue and ghostly encounters that you've told us this evening, and it's definitely got me in the mood for Halloween.
So, how many brooms do you rate Dark Wales Tours?
Oh, it's definitely a 6 out of 5. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
What is your favourite tour that you've been on with Dark Wales Tours?
I really loved the Margam Castle tour. That was really spooky. Which tour was your favourite?
Well, I really love the St. Fagans tour because there's so many different houses to go into and they just have really unique atmospheres. But I also really loved the Caerphilly Castle tour because it was Halloween and I just got so many good stories of Halloween in Wales. So I really enjoyed that one as well. Did you personally experience anything on any of the tours that was ghostly and supernatural?
Yeah, on the Margam Castle tour, I experienced more or less the same as you. Somebody touched me or grabbed me. And the spooky music. The music started up all on its own and we had to get the security man in and...
That was so strange.
It was. Everybody was a bit on their toes with that one, weren't they?
They were. And in St. Fagans, do you remember the fireplace? There was like a noise coming from the fireplace and we thought we saw like a shadowy figure.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah. And the chapel when we were in St. Fagans was really spooky.
Oh yeah, the chapel really affected you. I remember you coming out there going, did you see that? Did you see that? That was crazy.
Yep. And again in Margam, when we were up in one of the rooms upstairs, we kind of saw something in a mirror that was really Exciting.
And we both felt quite seasick. We had that feeling of like floating, didn't we? We both
Yeah.
looked at each other. I was like, I don't feel very well. Do you feel okay? And you were like, no, I don't feel very well.
Yeah, that was a real funny turn in that room, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really strange. I definitely think something was affecting us there. Another room I really liked was in Cardiff Castle, in the room where they did the seances.
Oh yeah, at the top of the tower.
Yeah, that was a beautiful room, but it
Oh, it
also
was.
had a really strange feeling, didn't it?
Yeah, that was really odd.
And the nursery, when they closed the doors and there's that creepy doll. Oh, that was scary. I loved that, but that was a very I think that was the most scary tour I've been on, is the Cardiff Castle.
You think?
For me, yeah.
Oh right. I was really the Margam Castle one by a mile as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, which is really weird considering so much happened at Markham Castle. But no, it's Cardiff Castle for me is the most scariest. I think you only like Markham Castle because it was your birthday.
It was my birthday, and the boys were kind enough to put me some merch together, which was very nice, and I still use the pen and the cup.
Yeah, and the hat and the t-shirt. It was amazing. I love merch. So thank you so much, Matthew and Luke, for that. That really made our evening. It made your birthday really special, didn't it?
It did. Thank you very much, both.
Thanks again, guys. Have a magical time.
It's magical.